Fantastic. Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. Our Lunch and Learn webinar series, where we tell you about what's going on here at Compleat and how you can get the most out of your iComplete subscription. Today's session, we're going to be covering the behavior settings within the system, and there's some good functionality in there that that hopefully will be able to help with the day-to-day processing of the transactions within the system. Today we're excited to introduce PearlScan as our Lunch and Learn sponsor. PearlScan is a leading provider of document management solutions. They have over 20 years experience delivering high quality document scanning, digitization, storage and shredding services that enhance workplace efficiency and reduce operational costs. By being part of the Compleat ecosystem, PearlScan enable business to make smarter buying decisions directly within our platform. And I'll show you where the ecosystem can be accessed as we go through. So on today's agenda, we are going to be looking at the behavior settings, as we'll just have a talk about some of the benefits of the behavior settings. I'll go through a live demo and just show you how to access those settings and where we can make various changes. We'll then have a look, as I said, at the Compleat ecosystem, and then we'll be happy to go through any questions or answers that you have. In fact, you go through the questions, I'll go through the answers. This is me. My name's Darren. I'm one of the software implementation consultants here. Been here for about 6 years, and I've spoken to most of you before in the past. Just some housekeeping whilst we're going through the sessions. If you could just ensure all microphones are off, obviously apart from my own. If you have any questions, hopefully you do, there will be a Q&A box that pops up at the top of your screen. There is also a people putting questions in the chat, but if you could pop it into the Q&A box, that'd be fantastic, and we'll have a look at those at the end of the session. Additionally, we are recording the session, and everybody who's signed up to this will be able to access the recording. We'll send you a link out to that later. So let's have a look at the behavior settings. So I've got my iComplete system here. I'll just bring that to the screen like so. And to access the behavior settings, we need to go into the configuration tile. So that's accessed through here. So the first thing is you need to be an administrator within the system in order to be able to access this configuration tile. Once I'm in the configuration tile, I will obviously see all the config areas in relation to the system, and I'll need to go to company. So I click onto company, and that takes me to this screen here. So what we are seeing here is obviously going to depend on the connector that you have, but this initial page will just show us some summary information about the company. Obviously, connection will reflect the connector that we are using. Things make it posting the net, the VAT and the gross, etc., to the finance platform, and then it's here that we have the actual behavior settings. It's all of these settings here that I will go through in this session now for you. So before we delve into these, the the behavior settings are at a company level. So I'm in demo site for consultants, that's my company name. And all of these behavior settings are to do with this particular company. If I were to move into a different company, obviously I'll be looking at the behavior settings for that particular company. So you can have different behavior settings for each of your companies if you wish. The first one that we've got here is company time zone. So that's just controlling, as you'd expect, the time zone that the company is working to. The next one we got here is duplicate invoice check. So this is a very handy tool. What this will do is this is going to check within iComplete, and if you are connected to a finance system using one of the connectors, it will also check in the finance system as well as to whether it's received a particular invoice or not already. So what this will do is, as long as the supplier has been mapped within iComplete, and as long as the supply reference number has been extracted correctly and has also been usually in the system, it's going to warn you if, as long as the checks are added, so the function switched on, it's going to warn you that it thinks that the invoice is a duplicate. And that's particularly handy, obviously, to make sure that you're not paying the same invoice twice. You've got two options with the function itself. Assuming that it's on, you can either have it as a warning or you can have it as an error. Now, the difference between the two is that warning will show to the users and say, I think this is a duplicate, and they'll be able to have they will have a tick box there that they'll be able to tick and say, yes, I'm happy to continue. The other option they've got is an error. And if that's switched on, then the system will show the message, this is a potential duplicate, and it will actually stop. It won't allow the user to process that invoice any further. Obviously, which setting you use, it's your own policies. If you do sometimes have similar invoice numbers come through, obviously you can set the warning accordingly. Just a further note on this, it's obviously only going to be checking if the invoice numbers are the same for the same supplier. So if I got invoice 1234 from B&Q and then invoice 1234 from Screwfix, that won't flag as a duplicate because they're different suppliers. You may also find that in your unprocessed tray, or as you're going through the system, it's perhaps not recognizing that invoice is duplicate, and 9 times out of 10 that's because the supplier hasn't yet been mapped, and the system doesn't know which supplier's invoices to go look at. But that's the duplicate invoice check. Obviously you can have it off or on, and then it's a simple case of choosing whether it's a warning or an error. The next option is operate. Now, it's relatively new. It's over the last year or so, could even be longer. What this does is this allows AP operators within the system to be able to view approved purchase orders, and it's for this company only as read only, and that's particularly helpful if the AP operators are manually matching invoices to orders, but also if they want to just go and review, for example, see how many open orders are still outstanding and how many are yet to be matched, etc. So that's a toggle switch on there to allow your AP operators to view approved purchase orders. The next one is validate bank details. So what this will do, this is particularly another good piece of functionality. What this does is if you have stored supplier's bank details against the supplier record in your finance platform, and if the supplier has supplied their bank details on the invoice, and if Capture has extracted those bank details, iComplete can do a check against the two. It can check the bank details that have been extracted from the invoice against the bank details that you've got stored in the finance system, and if it matches, then everything is well and good. If it doesn't match, then what will happen is it will then send it out to a nominated user for them to be able to perform some manual checks before the invoice is released into the rest of the system. So you can see here that I've got my validate bank details switched on. That's then asked me who the nominated user is, and I've stated it's me who's going to be the one that's handling those bank validation checks. And the way that it will work is it's very similar to approvals. The transaction will come to me, the system will be telling me that it thinks that there is bank details validation error. I'll be able to review it. If I'm not happy, I can decline and then delete the invoice. If I am happy, I can approve. It will then be released into the normal natural flow of things. So those bank details, if I just show you on the unprocessed tray, you may have noticed when you're in the unprocessed tray, you'll have these little piggy bank icons, and this is the bank validation checks. So if I hover over here, you can see bank details are not present on supplier from the finance system. The way that they work is grey if it can't find bank details, red or pinkish if it suspects a problem with the bank details, green if everything is happy. So that's your bank validation check. So I'll just go back into configuration, company and behavior settings. That brings us back to here. So that's the validate checks and nominated user. We have this other option here for allow creating suppliers in the finance system. Now this is dependent on your actual connector as to whether it will allow a supplier to be created in the finance system from an outside source. Basically, as you're probably aware, when a new invoice comes in from a supplier that it hasn't been created, you won't be able to map it to any supplier because it hasn't been cached from your finance system. But what this will allow you to do is to create the supplier in iComplete and then have that sent over to the finance platform. Now, most companies don't have this option selected because they want to control suppliers being created through a different route, and they will insist that suppliers are created in the finance platform first, then a recache performed so that that supplier record then comes over to iComplete. But if you wanted to, you could activate it and do the creation from within iComplete itself. Now, annoyingly, I just before we went live, I broke my system, so can't actually show you that particular function live, but I can show you from our help center what it is that you would be looking to see. So basically, when you go to map the supplier, where it would normally have the box saying please select the supplier, you'd have an additional piece of text in there. If you cannot find supplier, it may need to be added. Click here to add it now, at which point it will bring up this box here where you can give it supply code and supply name and create. Obviously, once you've done that, you can then move on and do the rest of the header, defaults, etc. But don't forget, you will need to go and populate the rest of the information in the in your finance platform going forwards. So that is an optional setting there. The next one we've got is enable alternative workflow logic. So what this will do, this is if you want to create a workflow that is imposing, or rather allowing, certain additional functionality. If I just go to the workflow and show you how it would currently look. So I've got that option switched off, and if I go to my workflow, let's go to my orders workflow. You can see we've got it's active, allow automatic approval, and allow self-approval is off. If I go to my behavior settings and if I switch on that alternative logic setting like so, now if I go back to my workflows and into orders, you'll see we've got this text up here, and we've got an additional allow multiple approvals. So what's the that switch in the behavior settings, what that does is that brings up this allow multiple approvals, and this works really well for if you've got the same approver at different positions within the workflow. Remember, you have concept of positions and then nodes within the position, so I could have position 2 with another node here, and let's say Abigail is here at position 1, but alongside is Simon. And then if I had again Abigail at this position 2 and then Simon again, I could have it if I had allow multiple approvals switched off. If Abigail's approved at position 1, Abigail cannot approve at position 2. It would have to be Simon. And likewise, if it was Simon at position 1, Simon can't approve at position 2. It'd have to be Abigail. So that's the allow multiple approvals. If I switch that on, then Abigail could approve at both positions. So again, that's setting on the behavior settings, and as you saw, just toggling that switch will enable that within the workflows, and you'll be able to go through and amend them accordingly. So that was enable alternative logic workflow. Sorry, workflow logic. Allow manual imports of linked order lines. Now, if this is switched on, what this will do is when I am in an invoice and I'm looking to match it, it will give me the option to manually import the lines. So I'd go into an invoice and let's find one where I've matched. There we go. And it would give me this import PO lines, which is where it would then show me the lines from the order, allow me to select which ones I want to bring across, and clicking submit will then bring those order lines from the top onto the invoice and overwrite them at the bottom. So if you are doing a lot of manual matching and want the ability to bring over the lines from the order, as I said, that's that setting on the behavior settings side for iComplete. The next one we've got is analysis display. So what this does is when we're going through and looking at the fields, we can control whether this field is showing us the code and the description or just the description. The other option we've got is the just the code or the description and the code. And this refers to, if I go to an invoice quickly now, it is any field that we were seeing in there, we can control how they look. So account code, for example, if I click into here, it's giving me the code and then the description. And on that behavior setting that we were just looking at, I could have it as just show me advertising, or just show me 11.001, or show me advertising 11.001, etc. So you can control on a field by field basis how that data is presented and coming through. So again, that's the analysis display in the behavior settings. Just get back into that now. That's that one. The next one we've got is the default payment due days. And what this will do is this is allowing us to tell the system that if there is no default payment days or due days on the supplier record coming in from the finance system, then just apply a default of, and at the moment it's 30 days. I can click on change and I can change that accordingly. So it will only overwrite any supplier that doesn't have default payment days on their supplier record on the finance platform. It will use this default from here. So just coming on to the last few then, we've got an option for payroll. So if we switch this on, which I have here, what it will do is it's payroll in the cash requirements report. And you can see it's saying, if enabled, you will need to enter your payroll and PAYE plus employer contributions and payroll frequency. And that's what we would do down here. So we have the option to change it. We can obviously populate everything into here. And once that's in there, as you can see, it's the cash requirements report that will show that information. And if I just go and run that cash requirements report for us now, you'll see that we have a payroll element. Obviously mine's all 0 because I haven't set anything up, but it will split that all out, and we can obviously change our date requirement. So if you wanted to get some more detailed reporting out of the system, especially when it's coming to cash flow and obviously need to take payroll into account, that's a function that's available. And likewise, we've got one as well for VAT, so VAT repayments. You can see, switch this on to include calculated VAT repayments based on the invoices in your cash requirements report. And if I was to activate that one, we then have the option to exclude VAT codes. So we can exclude the ones that we do or do not want to see. But if I leave that switched on, and if I then go and run that cash requirements report again, you'll see that we've now got an element in there for VAT payments as well. And that's probably going to take a while to run. Whilst that's running, obviously, if you don't have that cash requirements report showing in your, there we go, if you don't have the cash requirements report showing in your available reports, then that would be your user record that would need to be amended. I'll just show you quickly how to do that. So it'd just be configuration, users, choose the user. Over on the right hand side, you've got the reporting tab, and it's down here, cash requirements report. Just simply switch the toggle across and that report will become available for you. Obviously, don't forget to click on the update user. So that is all the areas in the behavior settings. I'll just bring that back up on the screen again. So some hopefully useful tools there for you to be able to control how transactions are treated within the system. Also remember that it's on a company level. So if you've got multiple companies, you'd need to go and make these settings in all the companies individually. Yeah, they are all there and available for your use. So that was the demonstration side of things. Before we move on to the questions, just a quick mention about the Compleat ecosystem. As I said before, so it's our built-in supply that connects businesses with providers across a huge range of industries. So whether you're looking for office supplies, financial solutions, or specialized services, the ecosystem makes it seamless to find, connect with, and buy from the best suppliers without all the usual hassle. What you see here is just a small snapshot of the many suppliers available through our platform, and there's our very kind sponsor for this session, Pearlscan. And again, just to show you how to access that from within iComplete. If I click onto here, you can see big banner sitting at the top, and clicking on that will take you to the ecosystem. Fantastic. So let's try and get that off the screen, back to here. There we go. So at this point, I am happy to take any questions that we have. So I'll just move to my Q&A section here. And just wait for that to load up. Excellent. Okay, so first question that I've got then is, can the cash requirements report be set up for a user rather than an administrator? Yes, certainly. So if you were to go to the as showed you last thing just before we came out of the demonstration, if you go to the user who would be using that report, and it's just a case of going into that user's record, onto their reporting tab, and then toggling the cash requirements report on, and that will appear for them. When it comes to the more particular areas like payroll, etc., that would have to all be done through the admin side. So obviously it's on that behavior settings where you've got those change buttons to be able to set that all up. Next question, is the bank validation check a new feature or always been there? As far as I know, it's been there for 6+ years, I think. So if it's something you haven't seen before, hopefully it's going to be of use. So next question, we have a lot of cases where we send invoices to iComplete. Okay, so not strictly to do with the behavior settings. However, what I can show you is there is a piece of functionality, again, it's accessed through the user's record. If I go to the user access tile itself, there is this access invoices processing And if I switch that on, what that will do is on the home screen, that will give you the tile for invoices extracting. If I go into there, this is basically the portal to capture online. So what this will show you is it will give you everything that has been anything that's being processed. So I've got nothing showing here, got anything currently coming into my system. But if I change this filter to processed, you'll be able to see everything that has been processed in the system once it updates. But it would be in here where you'll be able to see invoices that have come in. If there are still invoices being sent and they haven't come in, I would suggest raising the issue with the support desk. I'll look further into it for you. So just having another look at the next question. Okay, so it looks like somebody here has an issue with the invoice duplicate checks. I think for that one, I would, again, probably recommend you log into the support desk because they'll be able to look into the exact circumstances. As I said, reasons why invoices don't indicate that they're duplicated to have the supplier mapped yet. And it's not just a case of mapping the supplier and clicking save, it also has to be submitted as well, because as you probably at point that you get the message pop up to say, would you like to save this mapping and use it the next time that a supplier, or rather an invoice from the supplier comes in. That's, as I said, that might be the answer. Got another question just come in. I need to change the settings for that. It needs to be switched off, but it won't let me. How do I resolve this? So I assume what you're referring to is going to company and behavior settings, and I don't know if it's that. So I've switched that off. It might be that it's once it's switched off, it just takes a while to come through. I'll give it 10-15 minutes because obviously SaaS software might need to update something on the server. But if that doesn't come through, then just give us a shout through support. How would we raise a purchase order for a supplier to be approved before placing the actual order? Okay, so that's, to be honest, that's more workflows. We have got a recording for a workflow session available on the help site. Do go have a look at that. But what I can show you just very quickly is in the workflows, what you can do is you can either build a separate workflow, or within an existing workflow, you could just add to the criteria to say if the supplier is equal to, and then choose the supplier. But obviously, remember, you might need to have, if you've got additional nodes, you might need to build it in to say if, so for these nodes, if the supplier is not equal to. Not quite sure if that's answered your question entirely, but as I said, there is on the help site the previous session for workflows, etc. So do have a look at that, and there's also on the help site as well good section on workflows on there as well, like so. Excellent. So I think that is the questions. Apologies if I've missed any. It's always fun going through it in a live session. Obviously, if we do pick up on any that that we have missed, apologies. We will reach out to you as long as we've got your contact details in the in the chat. So that just leaves me to say thank you ever so much for joining us. We appreciate you giving up your lunch times. The next session, details on the next session will be coming out shortly. Obviously, if there's anything that we can help with, the support desk are here, or you can the success team at success@completesoftware.com or obviously through LinkedIn. But just leaves me to say thank you ever so much. Enjoy the rest of your lunch break, and hope you enjoy the rest of the day. Look forward to seeing you in the next session.